Carlos, I told you this when I saw you in London, that often when I'm teaching workshops, I tell people Carlos Barboza is the best in the world at Dataviz best practices and very elite Excel skills. And then sometimes people are like, what? But like, you're good at that too. And I'm like, Carlos is better. Carlos is the best, is truly how I describe you all the time in workshops. So now that I've made you blush, can you
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
show me some of those cool things that you do in Excel?
Sure. And well, thank you, Anne, for the opportunity to do this conversation. Thank you for putting me on the pedestal too high. I'm just an enthusiast with Excel. I had my humble beginnings. I think it was a rough humble beginning because I had to learn array formulas. So, and really learn array formulas in a very short time. And later on, when I left my first job as a business analyst, I realized two things. The array formulas were not very popular with many Excel users. They found it too intimidating. And then I realized the value of knowing array logic or just, getting complex yeah, array formulas is a bit complex. It's a bit advanced. But when the new calc engine came into Excel, that you just don't have to press Control Shift Enter to get an array of results. You can just spell it. That really changed it blew my world because before that it was I used to do the interactive charts with index, offset, and many other tricks. But index and offix has always been key, and also you had to name the ranges and then put them into the charts, and that will make it dynamic. But now with the spill ranges, it's just referencing a spill range. It's just referencing a cell with a hashtag. Now the hashtag has become my favorite symbol, my favorite reference type of reference in Excel. And as you about to see, which I can start now, share my screen, is being the result of that. I don't think Microsoft at all was aiming that we will enhance the chart engine because of another feature. They were just doing the feature for formulas and for calculations for users that use Excel more for calculations purposes. I just combined the two. I knew what I knew. Sorry, grab what I knew about charts and the hacks and the tips and tricks with what I knew about array formulas. And yeah, and this is what I'm about to show. Thank you, Anne, for the opportunity again. Let me see. Spill graphics. The name of it is because of a spill ranges from the new feature of the new calculation engine of Excel. So spill ranges and dynamic array functions are the synonyms at times, but sometimes interchangeable concepts. So spill and then graphics because yeah, I don't know, just the term graphics. I could have used spill charts, but for some reason, just graphics. I don't know. I just found it to be a little bit more catchy, I guess. And this is a homepage, and this is one of I would say kind of like my favorite chart types. And you can see here that one of the, sorry, maybe I'll do this. I know with four. Parallel coordinates is not one that has many friends, is one that potentially has the least amount of enthusiasts when it comes to data visualization. I know data scientists like him, but whenever I try to just present it to a regular user, a business analyst who is actually asking me, hey, can we see all these variables at once and across products? And I tell them, yeah, there's a possibility. And I tell them I show them parallel coordinates, and they just scare off and be like, "Oh no, maybe let's do bar charts." And so it's kind of funny because the chart is itself brilliant once you understand them, but it takes a bit of a learning curve in order to sort of get familiar on how to interpret the chunk of lines and all of that. And these all charts that you're seeing here are made with Excel, just the humble Excel, and they're all interactive again because the spill range. That's what makes it possible because as soon as I'm clicking on these pivot table slicers, I'm changing a calculation which is in a cell, but that's sort of like the parameter to sort of tell the spill arrays to see if they contract or expand. And that's what makes it the charts to become dynamic and interactive. So now,
I think in your class you
yeah,
use the term rubber band. I
yeah, rubber
think.
band. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
like a rubber band expanding, contracting.
yep. And I love that concept because um in essence is that like it's elastic. I mean, Microsoft doesn't use the word elasticity at all. That's more for economic terms. But I really find that because you're controlling how much you want the range to spill or to expand or collapse, just having that control through formulas, that is just opens up, a different universe of possibilities. I mean, in a way, you can extend the chart engine of Excel, which already comes with nice charts, but here you're coming up with stuff that is not native. But if you have the knowledge of array formulas, and I would say the learning formulas, array formulas nowadays, I would say that now I think it's easier than before. And I'm not sure if I'm taking this too lightly because you have unique function, and the unique will give you just the, unique or distinct values of a list. It will remove the duplicates. But if you get to see the old way of doing that same functionality or same purpose, it was a crazy array formula. It was nuts. It was totally insane. And I remember when I learned it, it was like, wow, I'm not gonna implement this in all the work that I do, but whenever it's necessary and urgent, we'll do it. We'll do it this way. Now that whole complexity has been reduced to just unique function, and then sort, which allows you to say if you want this unique list to be sorted alphabetically in descending or ascending. And you also have sort by, which tells maybe I want this array to be sorted by another array. So I think things have been simplified, and I think we should be gracious because maybe some people who will jump into learning Excel today in 2025, they might not appreciate that. They not might
Yeah.
appreciate how it was the old school. So, yeah. Any thoughts on that, Anne? Or
I totally agree. Sometimes I work with people in workshops who, because they work at a NGO or they work for a local government agency, they might be on an older version of Excel. And I
yeah,
tell them, like, it's okay. You can still do all these charting things I'm teaching you on older versions. That's how I did it. There's workarounds, of course. Like, it happens to be a little smoother nowadays with just little changes to chart formatting. But
yeah.
yeah, I wonder if the newbies, the people who are just coming out of university, maybe don't might not appreciate all the features, but we do. We do.
We do, we
Okay,
do. I think, yeah,
I have some chart questions for you.
yeah.
And the one on the upper left is a line chart behind the scenes.
Uh,
Yeah.
this one.
Parallel coordinates. You made that from a line chart. Yeah.
Scatter
Am I
plot.
missing some? It's a scatter plot.
It's a scatter plot. Yep, scatter plot. Just a scatter plot. And maybe I want. Yep, just a scatter
Oh,
plot.
connecting the
And
dots. Okay. You could
yep,
probably make that from a line chart too. I don't know. I
right.
have to think through.
And
Yeah.
this is where things sort of also so you need to sort of know what are the drawbacks of each individual chart in Excel to know that with a line chart it is not possible because the line chart will connect the ending points, and maybe I can jump in here and throw in well, I can because well, let's see if I do this. Okay, maybe you can see me doing
Mm-hmm.
the arrows.
Yeah.
So the line chart, it is, intuitively will be the first option come to mind. But the thing is that we need to break this line right here where it ends, this like maybe black line, maybe hopefully you can see it clearly,
Mm-hmm.
from stop there and not continuing into whatever next value is on the series that is on the spreadsheet on the grid. we need to make it to stop. How do we do that? So we sort of insert like a break line with the error NAs. So that way it just, jump into the next array. So what eventually we're doing is like, with the line chart, each series is a different line.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm changing the setup and the logic and to say, well, I'm going to bring each series, which is individually each line, and I'm actually going to put one under the other. And I can do that with spill arrays. And with the scatter plot, I can actually plot all those lines with just two series. That's what's happening here right now. And I can insert those break lines so each series looks separate to each other. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's happening pretty much here. That's what you see. Maybe actually we can open the file here and maybe which number is it? 37? 37. Actually I was gonna ask you to give me a number randomly from 0 to 61 and you tell me
Well,
which one
I,
we
I
can
was
do it
gonna
after.
quiz myself and see if I could recognize all the chart types behind the scenes. But I already failed the first question. So I know the one in the well, now it's on the upper right, contextual jitters. When I
Yep.
saw that in your class in London, I knew. I was like, okay, that's not a box and whisker, which is
No.
actually now a native built-in chart. And I thought, I bet that's a stacked column chart. And then how did he get the dots? A scatter plot. And I think that was what it was, right? A stacked columns with dots. The
Yep.
one on the upper right is a scatter plot.
Yep. Also scatter plot. So you can
Yeah.
see, as you can
Yeah.
see already, and you have already noticed it, scatter plot, scatter plot, scatter plot.
Hmm.
And these one also have lines. So again, you see these lines. Maybe they're very blurry right now, so sorry for that. We'll jump into that example. And also, this is a scatter plot. Oh wow! And this is also a scatter plot. Oh wow! I just noticed this. Thank you for making me notice this. All of these are scatter plots. They're none of the regular charts. And I
Wait, the
wanna
blue
call,
bar chart is a scatter plot?
yeah, because this is an error bar right now. You can format it to be, I mean, you can format an arrow bar to the point of making it look like a bar chart. And yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Wow, I didn't even notice that all these six examples were scatter plots on the back end. I didn't never, yeah, never realized. Thank you for that.
Well,
Eh,
I mean, scatter plots, if people are brand new to this listening, a scatter
yeah,
plot, you assign an X and Y value, right? So you can like take your normal table
yeah,
and then you think, how do I turn this into XY coordinates? And then you have so much editing control, more than what else do I use? Like if I want to make a population pyramid, two histograms going outward, I just use a stacked bar chart for that. Stacked bar charts and scatter plots, I feel like most often. Maybe I use to kind of bend Excel. Okay. Wow. 6 scatter plots here. All right. Show me behind the scenes
six
of one of
scatter
them. I'd love to
plot.
see it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I just wanted to give a humble quote because this I learned it from Jorge Camoes. You probably also know him, right? From that I work, and he one
Mhm.
day wrote to me, or maybe put it on his book. I forgot where I know it came from him because I we laughed about it, and or I told him, it's like in the end, all charts are scatter plots. In the end, all charts is just pixels. And if you take that and you take that maybe personally, you will see that eventually if you see charts just as dots and you can control how many dots you want to show, eventually you can do any chart possible. Of course, within the limits of Excel, maybe a Sankey diagram will be a bit hard, but it's still possible. And maybe other charts also maybe be complex. But if you take it maybe into the R or Python or D3, and you go with that approach of thinking, oh, okay, I need to think about dots and dispersion, and it really can open your mind to say, if I think of my series or my results in terms of dots, I think it really opened my mind with when I heard that. And that was many years ago when I read his book, Data at Work, which I really, really highly recommend. So
My shelf for sure.
Yes, yeah, really, yeah. And I have tried to replicate some of his charts, but they're so like crafty that I want to take him to become interactive. And I think I only have done one, which we could see the connected scatter plot, which we could see in a little bit. I'll jump into the parallel coordinates here. And eventually, I always start with this. I always give credit because you always get inspired from the works of other. This was done by a name called Jason Davis, and he posted this on I think his blog, blogs.org, and eventually doesn't exist anymore. I think it does, but it will take you to more to the GitHub of these parallel coordinates that he did with Vega or Vega Lite. And Jason Davis, really inspired because there's one thing that is not possible here or it's not showing up is that, and I'm just gonna step back, is that on his example, is interactive example, it's gonna maybe jumping. No, I don't want that. All right, there we go. On his interactive example, you can actually, with the mouse, you can actually drag this and actually place it here or here, and the chart will adapt like smoothly. And it was impressive because sometimes parallel coordinates, you may want to reorganize your variables according to a specific context. You're not really per se manipulating the perception of the information. You're actually organizing that maybe you want 3 variables or 4 variables to be next to each other, as opposed to maybe on one end on this side and the other variable on this side. It can actually help you just moving around if some 2 variables are maybe highly correlated, maybe with a third one, or maybe the fourth one. And that possibility of just dragging, it was phenomenal. Of course, this cannot be done in Excel in that way, but I was able to pull it out with pivot table slicers. So for example, in this case, we're seeing the same visual, also the same data set because he shared it on GitHub. And the data set is basically this. Sometimes people ask, how is the data behind the chart look like? Well, this is how it was on GitHub. So you have the model of the cars, the attributes of the car, of each individual car model. So in this case, you have the MC Ambassador Brougham. And I think some of these are really actually cars and models. So then you have 7 variables: the economy, MPG, the cylinders, the displacement, the powerhouse or the horsepower, the weight, how many, I think, seconds or the 0 to 60 miles per hour, sorry, and the year of the car or the model. So then you have the values to each attribute and how many car models. So 400 models, about 3,000 rows of data. And then what I just did, it was also the manufacturer, which was also important because I'm gonna use this for my pivot table slicers to say, maybe just highlight, all the Honda models or maybe the Ford models. And then I just do a little bit of a support column here because I'm concatenating the model, which you can see it repeat itself with another column of 1. I won't go too into the specific of this, but it really helps as a support columns for the formulas. And then
for anybody watching who's watched my
Yeah.
videos, I call them helper columns, but it's the same concept, I think. Yeah, the support, the helper,
helper columns. And actually, let's stick with helper columns, and because that's the term I learned from the great book of Guerrilla Data Analysis. And kudos to us and Bill Dellen for their book, because it really also changed my mindset of solving or breaking complex stuff into pieces. And by pieces, each individual column, you're seeing how you're getting to the result. And maybe you can combine all those formulas into a mega formula, but at least because you broke it down, you know what's going on. So yeah, support column, but let's forget about support column, helper column. So yep. And it doesn't have a formula now that I'm noticing, but maybe it's just a concatenation of these two, just in case. It's the model with the ID. So you can see. If you can spot the pattern, again, 3, number 4, and then 4 with these 2 concatenated. Now, here I won't go too deep, but here are for example, the first initial calculations. And I think it's a good way just to see, I'm getting the unique function here, and I'm just getting the unique attributes. And then I'm sorting the attributes also. And as you can see, I added a number because I actually want I want this custom order to stay like that for the slicers. It's a cheap it's a cheap trick, but it gets the job done for this sort of scenario. If you don't want the number, just in case, well, there is other approaches, and there's actually one by Mark Proctor, which blew my mind. He just posted it, I think, last year, which doesn't involve approaching or going through the data model or custom list. It's actually way more hacky, but robust at the same time. And robust is good because it allows it that you can implement it in professional work. Then this may intimidate some people, so sorry for that. This is a formula where things already start to get a little bit not intuitive in the way of X number, X match. This is sort of now where you want to become flexible to say, okay, I don't understand this, but if you just really put the time, you will eventually just notice or appreciate, oh, wow, you really can become or get these logics into formulas to get what you want. And that's the beauty of it. Right now, what this formula, maybe it looks a little bit weird of X number, X match. Eventually, it's just saying, hey, look, from this list that you have here, just give me whatever, and that's why you're using X number on the X match appears on this list. So I want you to filter the blue column or the blue range on just only on the manufacturers that appear on the purple range. Sorry. And that's what it's doing pretty much. I mean, X match, but whenever you have a blank on that purple range, it's not a number, it's just a blank. And the number converts those true and falses to one and zeros. And then I run that into the filter function. Maybe I'm putting too much things here. Oh, sorry. There we go. Oh, right here. Into the filter. And then I do have a list which has duplicates. And that's why then I call the unique function. And that's pretty much what's happening here. And I'm just getting the items because eventually, and as you can just in case, right here, this is a pivot table. Doesn't look like a pivot table, but it is once I click here. And you can see now that the pivot table analyze tab has just showed up. And this was the old way of doing things. This actually was my Achilles tendon because I didn't like this. I didn't like this open range, it just wasn't robust. Now, with a new approach, we can actually replace this list to be a table from Power Query that is actually born from this table. And now when you start seeing it like that, then you can start really saying, wow, and now I can make actually professional work because it's robust and it's integrated. Here, well, maybe I'm just opening the formula here. This could be a weak point. I mean, still you can do it professionally, but it's a weak point that you have an open range just like that. Any questions until now, Anne?
No, I'm just thinking in the back of my mind that when I teach workshops, I often teach people like, okay, you've got this pivot table, but let's say you want to make a map. Have you ever tried to do that? Pivot table to geographic map?
Yep.
Do you get the pop-up that's like, sorry, you can't do this. Excel doesn't link a pivot table to a map, or maybe it's just my computer. So I show people you need a helper table, you need an intermediate step. So the pivot table can go to like a regular table outside the pivot table, and then that can go into a map.
Yep.
And so I teach people about the concept of helper cells, helper tables, support tables, all the time. And sometimes they're like, when would I need this? When would I need this exactly? And it's like, for this. Once you have helper tables and you're linking this to this and this to this, it's like a whole new world opens up to you where you can just get so creative with Excel and really make anything you want in Excel. Like just so many more doors are open once you
Yeah.
realize like, oh, I just need a couple intermediate steps and I just need this linking to that. Some people don't think of Excel in that way. They just think of like it's a data set. Maybe they're familiar with pivot tables, maybe they're familiar with charts, but they don't realize that like all these really sophisticated linkages can happen behind the scenes. So,
Yes, totally. And sometimes I always wonder, how can you teach people, and I don't want, this may sound terrible, but how do you teach people to hack? Like how do you teach people to sort of, because it sounds bad, hack or
yeah.
cheat, but in a way is that you're just combining the functionalities to pull out a trick that Excel doesn't do it natively, but because you
Mhm.
combine the features, you get it anyways. And it's also
Yeah.
another line from the book of guerrilla data analysis. Um, but the only way you will find out is going through the example of somebody else, or maybe seeing it live, or just learning the two independent features by themselves, and then on your mind connecting the dots. But I sometimes feel like the only way I think is by show by example, show them, hey, look, because the map, for example, what you're doing is bridging, you're having the pivot table and then you're using the ranges from the pivot table on the side, and then you're connecting our normal range because a pivot chart cannot do maps until now, even so many years until now, we still can. Now the question is, what happens if your range of your pivot table grows, and then you have to manually also adjust the ranges that are next to the pivot table, right? And that screws things people up. But then I show somebody, because he was doing that as the same approach with a map, and I told him, hey, well, just do map Lambda and get pivot table data. And as soon as I just mentioned Lambda and map, it's like, what functions are those?
Yeah,
Well,
and I haven't taught myself lambdas yet, so it's on my list of
and
like
your list,
need to
yeah,
learn
yeah.
this.
To learn this, yeah. Oh, really, really invest in learning Lambda, because the Lambda is pretty much saying, I'm giving you, Excel is saying, I'm giving you the power to create the function that you ever dream of. So, and that's like a huge thing, that's a huge thing. And when I told him that, it's like, oh, eventually what you're doing is we get pivot data function, which is not very popular or very friendly to many users. They actually want to turn off that feature, or they actually want to, they get pissed whenever they reference a cell from a pivot table and they see this function just popping up. I tell them, yes, I know it can be annoying, but now check this out. If you combine it with a map, we're gonna run through each individual value of the pivot table with map function and lambda. And also, because of the get pivot data, we actually make this mapping or referencing iterative. So that way, when your pivot table either contracts or collapse, your map will adjust, because your map is referenced to a spill range, not to a range. And that really, and I learned this from Bernard Boateng. He's from Kenya, Africa. And I was playing my Call of Duty, and I was just watching his YouTube, or actually his session from Giles, full stack modeler. And as soon as he just grabbed, actually, he wasn't even working with the normal pivot tables. He was working with Power Pivot Table, which in that way, in that scenario, you work with cube functions. So he was doing the same thing with Q functions, and I tested with get pivot data function, and it works the same way. The same logic applies. It's just that the name of the instead of cube functions or cube value, you change it for get pivot data, and it worked, and I help out that person, and yeah, but it's there's so much. It's so sad to say this, but it's true. There's so many Excel users that don't use tables, and there's also so many users, like 99%, that probably don't know Power Query, for example. And these are two, especially the latter two, the latter Power Query. It is the tool that really just will make you more valuable in your organization, totally more valuable, because you will be able to handle any set that is unworkable by many, or that takes so many hours for people to just fix to then create something. a presentation or a report or just a basic summary, Power Query will, I think it's like the hero without cape. Yeah, that's the that's a good analogy. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll continue. Sorry, I get side. So yeah, I get derailed
I'm just
easily.
thinking about how much I love Excel. I just love Excel. There's so many things to learn. There's so much it can do. But
Totally.
go on. Go on. I know
Yeah.
we feel the same.
Okay, so this is sort of the formula now. So to get sort of like what the unique things, because again, these arrays right here in a way are sort of like the parameters. This is what I'm gonna say. If these are being controlled on how much to show, then whatever is on this list, I want you to then spill. And here comes another formula that actually grabs and says, hey, give me a sequence, because then for each individual model, I want you to be plotted. Okay. And this is what makes, with a line chart, you will be plotting this as a one series and then on another series on a line chart. But what happens is with the line chart, because it works like that on the back end, each series is a different line. It's not scalable, because how
Yeah.
about if you have 100 series, are you gonna reference 100 lines? So scatter plots come into play into the game and say, well, you can plot one array, which in this case for the x for the y
The
values
why.
in this case.
Yeah.
Yep. But then we have to normalize, and I'll explain that real quick. And then we need the x position or on the x horizontal axis, and that will be this array 1 through 7, 1 through 7. But how do we make it that each line is its own series, or we mock it, or we kind of fake it to be like that? Well, we bring this NA to sort of serve as the breaking points. So I'm plotting, actually, I don't know how many, I'm actually plotting all the cars here. And this array is going all the way up to row 3200. And I think the original data set, how much was it? Well, 2800. So maybe I increased because of all these zeros, but now I have control of that, because now with my pivot table slicer, I can say how many cars I want to show or not show. And the logic lies on one backbone formula. And you saw this on my masterclass. And because of one array, everything else falls into place. You just need to sort of know what is it that is making this array to go 1 through 0, 1 through 0, 1 through 0. And again, I give kudos to my Gervin from Excel Fund, because I learned this from him, of sort of making, with the mod function especially, that sort of effect of 1 through 7, 1 through 7, 1 through 7. And I'm including the 0 in order to get the NAs as breaking points. And I can only again say this, like, how do you know about this, or how is it that again, my humble beginnings with Excel were rough, because I had to learn array formulas. So I had to learn that sort of well, this is easy, but before it was crazy formulas in order to pull out something like this. Do Control Shift Enter and then drag the array in order to see all the other results. Nowadays, just a spill range, you connect it to a unique list, or to a list with duplicates, calling the unique function, and then you get the unique values. Very easy. But that's the new school, and the new school in this case is better than the old school. So yeah. And now for the following column, we normalize the values, but I'm actually normalizing, pulling the values from the source. So as you can see, I'm working very closely with the table itself. That's why I kind of like the maybe we cannot see. Yep. There, that's a mess. Let me see if maybe I put myself here. That looks a little bit better. I'm using, everything is being referenced to the table, because again, I wanted to show that this eventually can become professional work and not just a hobby. Because again, if this table grows, then your arrays will grow or collapse if the table also shortens or becomes smaller. So in a way, everything becomes integrated. And because of that, it can become, robust to like a high level, And normalization, I'm just telling these numbers to go 0 through 1, because some of these are, as you can see, they have different magnitudes. So how do I bring them so they can all be within the same range? Well, we normalize them, and the function for normalization is this, values minus min, divided by maximum minus the minimum value of those values that you have within your array, which are right now coming from the table. With all of this, I may have bored you, but here comes now the last part, 8, which is actually the sort of setup of getting sort of, I believe for this, the axis, because here I have to put each individual axis. Oh, I don't know where each individual axis. And I have to format that. So what you're seeing here is the axis for this, then the axis for the other one, and then again over here there's another axis for this. So because I'm plotting the axis as series, and then now comes the last array, or the last section before jumping into the chart, which is sort of what do I want to highlight. So for example, if I choose 4 and I click, or fiat in this case, eventually you just saw it. Like, I'm gonna click not apply. See, nothing is being plotted here because everything has NA. But as soon as I click 4 or fiat, let's click 4, maybe 4. Yep, there we go. More lines. There's more models. But each line is a car model. And as you can see, they just spilled immediately in an instant. The calculation was super fast. And now what I'm thinking is, maybe for a second version, is because people have also requested it, it's like, with one color, show me one brand, but with another hue or color, show me another brand, so I can compare 2 brands at the same time. And this really is like amazing, because now let's click Citroën. Citroën only has one model. Let's see BMW. BMW has 2 models. Let's see EMC. Okay, this one. Now comes the tricky part of interpretation. People have asked me, how do you even understand this? How do you even make sense of it? Well, one way to tell them is, like, for example, within displacement, or CC, which is something, I'm not a car expert, but for all the models of AMC, their metrics or their attributes are ranging from 377 to 145. So you know that for your data set, these are the range of values. And now, then you can also go and see a bit of clusters here. You see many models are actually ranging from, I think it's 340, or no, I think it's 300. Yep, 300. Yep. Hard to see, but it's there. And you also have 2 other clusters here. I'm just going to put it in blue, or the other 2. And now you start to see, okay, clusters is a bit of patterns. All these models are also within these 3 different ranges, or 3 different data points. And then again, you get more familiar with the charts or the analysis, then you start to see, okay, now within all the car models, I know we only have 8, 6, and 4. And out of all of them, I'm also having that within those number of cylinders, are many of them, not all of them, are within maybe 300 to 222. So you start to group mentally, or you start to sort of cluster the data visually. I know maybe I probably have bored you, Anne, but let me know if you have any questions, because
Oh my gosh. No,
eventually,
not at all. I
a
mean,
pair
that's
of
the beauty of
coordinates,
this.
yeah.
That's the beauty of having it interactive, is that you get to discover those patterns as you go, and yeah.
Yeah, totally. And what you can say eventually, for example, with the Opel cars, you can say, hey, look, from all the models that we have, which is about 4, we have all the cars are within 16 to a little bit over 13 in terms of 0 to 60 miles per hour second. And then you can also say, and our cars also ranges between this small range, and also between this range here. So you know that if any new model comes in and it's like maybe around here or around here, could be spotted as an outlier. Or maybe you can ask, why is that model so different and not close to the other lines, because the other lines become clusters. And the beauty of this chart, even though it's ugly, the beauty is of this is I'm plotting you about 7 metrics. But how about if I load down and say, you know what? Actually, show me Opel, but actually show me economy, show me horsepower, and show me the same other metric, and just show me 3. Don't show me everything, just show me 3. So now, again, back to the example, I'm not able to drag and drop the variables like he did. I wish I could show you, but I don't have the GIF anymore. But I was at least able to say that's what I want. That was my contribution. It's like, how about if you have the possibility to decide which variables to plot, and then you can at least have maybe 3, and maybe you want to go for weight, and now you have 4 instead of 7, or maybe you want to do economy, weight, and displacement, and now you start to see, you start to sort of play around with the ease of accessibility of the chart, because maybe before it was too complex to understand it. Maybe let's start easy as one of your recommendations, and thank you for that, to then grow in complexity to understand or interpret the chart. So yeah, I mean, that was not a feature on the original chart, but it came out as a side feature or side effect when I implemented this with Humble Excel. And again, chart type, as you can see, is just a scatter plot, just a scatter plot. But you may be wondering, okay, this looks very crafty. How many series, if you are an Excel enthusiast like us? Well, we have about all these. So the NAs, just in case, are because all the axes that I'm not showing. So in this case, I'm not showing this, I'm not showing this, I'm not showing this, and these are those NAs that you see here. What else we're plotting? On this NAs, just in case, are actually the axis right here. So I'm not showing them. And then we have the x-axis, which is this right here. And then also, if I maybe want to call out the axis labels, that's another series, so I can control that. And I think this is a good point, because eventually what I'm doing here, and I have approached Excel or Excel charts here after maybe example 50 and onward. After 50 example, I noticed something that, oh, wow, I know grammar of graphics. I know what Leland Wilkinson, and hopefully no R user is listening to me. Maybe they will crucify me for saying this, but I think I'm approaching charts as grammar of graphics in terms of layers, saying I'm actually plotting. I want the layer of the lines to be a separate layer than the axis or the lines for the vertical axis, and maybe another layer for the labels. And I'm putting that layer of labels on top of the lines so I can have control of that. And because of that, I started saying, oh, wow, I'm approaching a little bit of Excel charts as grammar of graphics in terms of layers. But again, I mean, I'm saying this in a way of the layers. I mean, Leland was more technical. His approach to charts was more from a pure mathematical approach. But I did take what I learned from the book, which also is a difficult book to read. I took the part of layers, of actually just putting the layers, and with code, with R, having control of the layers if you want them on top or on the back. Yeah. So, and the example where I noticed that was actually, and I want to call in, let's just close this one, where actually really, that was the realized moment. I was like, oh my God, this cannot, where is it? Where is it? It is Convex hole. Yep. Number 58. Yep. Here I want to give credit to Bo Rydobon, because his name. Well, I don't know his real name. He doesn't say what's his real name, but you can find him on LinkedIn as Bo Rydobon. He's a master of formulas. And one day, I don't know how we got to the point of me suggesting if convex hole, which is that line, circumference line that you see here on this chart, can be actually possible with lambdas, with formulas in Excel, without approaching VBA or a US defined function. So what am I saying this? Andy Pope came out with a nice macro that allows you to draw that line and go through all these points and draw a circumference. Now, convex hull is a bit of a technical term, but for people who are maybe marketers or marketing folks, think of it as saying, "Hey, maybe I want to, can you group the points that are pertain to a family of products and make the line just to see the cluster more evident?" Then convex hull could be one alternative. And the first approach was here made by Andy Pope, and he did it with BBA. Fascinating BBA, fascinating macro. I still don't understand it, but it's fascinating. And then I contact Bo and tell him, "Hey, Bo, do you think it's possible to convert the BBA macro, the algorithm that Andy created into a Lambda? Since Lambda is iteration, we're kind of like creating for each loops within Excel formulas or with functions of map and other ones, and also using Lambda." And say, I'll take a look. And within 3 days, he came back, "Hey, your convex hull, I have it ready." And I was thrown. I was like, no way, it cannot be possible. I tested the small sample that he showed me, and yes, it worked. I mean, this is it right here, and we can see it in action. Maybe we can just plot 3 clusters. I'm plotting it from B to E, and you can see immediately it just updated the chart. And now maybe I want to see E, maybe I want to see B, maybe I don't want to see the convex hull. Just take it out. That's how you will see it. Maybe you see this chart and, oh, that's a scatter plot. But as soon as you add the lines, now people are wondering, what are the lines for? But the line just emphasize, the clusters. Now we can know that all these dots are one, they share same group. And with the convex hull, you make it more visually prominent or evident. Now, how do you pull that line to be how do you pull this line? Because eventually convex hull is just this line. Well, maybe I can see if the formula is over here. There we go. That's the formula right there. That monstrous formula. And he came up with that. To this day, I have tried ChatGTP. I have tried DeepSeek if he can come close to it. It fails. It doesn't. It comes out with functions that doesn't even exist in Excel. So hallucinations are real. And Bo created it. I mean, Bo knows all he knows his array formula knowledge. Yeah, very advanced. So then I decided, okay, I want to continue. I want to combine Bo's work, which is one, and then I want to combine the work of Robert Mundigl, which is like this of Tooltips. And I said to myself, well, this is nice. I can see the line. I can see each dot, but which dot is it? Because the tooltip natively in Excel is poor. It's very poor. It's very limited. So now Robert Mondigal has a cool post on his website, on his blog called clearlyandsimply.com, which is a Hall of Fame place to visit. It's just mind-blowing, all the stuff that he has done with BBA. A lot of people say BBA is dead. That website just shows you there's a lot to discover combining BBA to interactive data visualization within Excel. In this case, as you can see on the image below, he is combining he's combining a tooltip in a way to show up, but you can control which tooltip. Maybe you want to show a rich tooltip like this, or maybe you just want to show, and maybe we'll see in a bit. Maybe you want to show the tooltip to be also a chart within a chart to say that dot is that in year 2000, but then let's see across time. And you can see the same dot in 2000, but then it was coming down from before. And that just blows your mind. Tooltips, when it comes to that point, it blew my mind. So how do we bring that to the other place? Well, I click on the chart, and now look at this. As soon as I mouse over on one of the dots, there we go. Tooltip right there. I'm just gonna, there we go. That's the tooltip. And the tooltip actually is this page right here. That's my tooltip. That's my tooltip right there. You can design it however you want. So I know this for you, and it might blew your mind because I know
I
you
love
can
it.
get to a point of saying, wow, you can customize the look and feel. And you're more of an expert than me on look and feel of charts and how to make them very polished. I just made it to be a pale gray, just a small grid line or borders, and that's it. And I enriched the native tooltip, or actually replaced the native tooltip with the macro of rubber, which are all hosted here, which we go to on the back end. How is this happening? Well, this is one of the macros, but again, and he also gives credit. He's taking Jon Peltier's work, which was already the laying the foundation, or how do you say this, the basis of his work. So it's nice because it's like we're giving credit backwards to the person who has helped us to get to this point. So I invite anyone to just, if they want to take out this example and take it to the next level, please go ahead. It's there, it's for free. Just in case, it's right here on my website. Spill graphics, you just go to examples and then go to dynamic arrays. And then number 58 is all the way down. So I apologize for the scrolling, but I think people have told me they enjoy just going through and sometimes just going through some of them that they have overlooked and downloading the file. Everything is downloadable. And that example with the tooltip is number 58. So a little bit down right there, Convex hole. Really, really amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff. I mean, it's one of the most advanced work that I have done because I combine both work. I combine Robert's work, and maybe I'm missing something here of adding the centroids because, and this is a little bit of more advanced statistically because eventually you want to say, can you show me? Well, I guess let me see. Let's add the centroids, for example, here, and maybe just show an example where actually we want maybe these three, maybe just two or three, A, B, C, and maybe let's lose the axis, or maybe fix them, or maybe both. Yeah, well, I'm fixing the axis, so I'm telling it the axis not to move, to stay put. So I'm also doing that with a pivot table slicer. And again, if we go into the back end, which is all the way there, it's just a bunch of cells, which is a pivot table, but I'm connecting the formulas to those cells that come from a pivot table. And since they're singular, the reference is just a cell, then you could just imagine yourself, I'm parameterizing my work. So if one cell changes, everything else is reflected on the chart. And this is what I want to, hopefully, if you want to take it home, is embrace the modern Excel because it is way simpler to implement this. Before it was more hacky, I guess. It's still hacky to maybe so many users standards, but it's way less complex, or I think it's way less than before. So the central is here, just going back to it because I derailed myself. So sorry if again. It's just the middle point of this. It's just serves as a reference. It's more of a visual cue as opposed to a more of a statistic. It doesn't have any statistical purpose in terms of numbers, but as a visual cue, it just tells you where the middle of this is pretty much. And this eventually can help maybe just to say, how spread are the values in this case. So you can see this right here into here for this cluster. And maybe because of that, you can say, well, cluster, in this case, cluster A is very open as opposed to the other cluster B and C, which are more tied to each other. So it's more of a visual cue, but since I saw it from somebody else, and since it's a mathematical term, centroid, and then I saw somebody with a tool, which is not Excel, but had the capability or the feature, I said to myself, well, let's try to see if we can implement it into Excel. So it was a bit of a, it was a bit of an Excel self-imposed challenge to say, can we pull it out? And that, yeah, and this is one of the works that really, okay, and I say, I mentioned it was the realization that made me, or maybe realize, wow, I'm approaching charts a little bit with a grammar of graphic approach. Because when something happened here, and I don't know if you know this bug, and is that as soon as for this type of work, you have to really do it, or you have to name the series sequentially in order. You cannot just say reference A and then you forgot to reference D, and then you decide, well, okay, I'll reference D later. And then with these buttons, I control right here with these buttons, I control on which position I want the series on. For some reason, there's a bug in Excel because when you touch one of these arrays right here, maybe I'll just close this. Close. Let's actually turn the centroids, turn off the convex. I touch these points right here. There is a 13. That 13 tells me that within the order of the Excel chart, that is the position of 13 on the series. But whenever, if you, for example, forget or make the mistake of not putting it in order, Excel for some reason is not gonna respect that order if you move that series to be maybe 12 or maybe be 14 with these buttons right here. Maybe I got a little bit too technical, but as soon as I realized that these buttons were working, sometimes they do actually for basic charts like a bar chart. If you draw a series that wants to be the line as of the benchmark, and you move that series up and down, you will see that it can maybe place behind the bars of a bar chart or maybe in front of the bars. And maybe you want each, depending on the case, you maybe want them to be in front of the bars, or maybe you want them to be on the back, to be not so prominent, but still present. With these buttons, it allows you to do that. But for some reason, for this example, it wasn't working. And then that's when I realized, okay, no, first, what layers or what sort of series I want to put first, and then what's going to go on top. So eventually, when you get to the tooltip, and right here, which we don't see, you actually look at the tooltip being updated fast and live. Well, the tooltip in this case is this series, and that's the last series I'm gonna put because the tooltip series is just dots, but invisible, no color, no hue. They're invisible, and they're on top of all of these. So in a way, it's a hack to sort of say, do the tooltip on the first series or the last series of the chart, but the last series of the chart is invisible. Yeah, and I'll stop. Any questions, Anne, or I don't know if I bore you. I hope not.
No, I joke with people that I could talk about Excel till midnight, and sometimes they laugh and think I'm joking, but I'm like, I could. Like, I love all of this. I just looked at your clock. It's 9:25 p.m. where you are.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay,
I'm thinking like, I just love meeting people who can also talk about Excel until midnight. I love it. I'm going to give you one more compliment before we end. Is I also think you're the best at the world at taking inspiration from what other people have done and then building upon it, modifying it, taking it to the next level. I mean, you mentioned so many people's work that you referenced, you learned from, you were able to customize it to get just what you wanted. And
thank you.
I think a lot of people don't do that. I think a lot of people read a book or go to a class, and I think you're the best at just constantly learning. So well done.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. I'm so impressed.
I hope people take home that because really you'll be surprised just by giving some credits. Or I know sometimes you want to have the originality. I really I know that it's a human instinct, just to say, I invent this, but if for some reason maybe after hearing me, if you have an idea that were inspired from others, but it's still your own idea or your own creation, even though, I mean, maybe it's personal and it goes person to person. But if you do take the action, the humble action of saying, hey, look, your work inspired mine, that sort of act can become a relationship. So, and a friendship. And really, yeah, it's just, yeah, I know so many folks overlook at it and or skip it. Personal reasons, I understand. I'm not judging anybody. But if you do decide, it does pay great dividends. Some
Go back
folks,
to your first one, the
yep,
coordinate axes,
right here on my website or
on
the
the Excel file or just a screenshot. Yeah, that one. So the before version
yep.
was, do you have it open in Excel? You might have
I can
closed it.
reopen it. I can reopen it. Yep, I
Okay.
can reopen it for
I just
sure.
want to make sure what I'm talking about is what people are seeing. I don't
37.
know what
Yep,
number it was. 37, yeah.
37. There we go. 37. There we
Okay.
go. This
So
one?
the inspiration for this one was it was static. It was all blue. I think everybody can agree this is a really dense chart. There's a lot of data in there. And that's
Yeah.
not a critique of the person who made it. That's just the data set. There's what,
Yep.
6, 7 different ratings. There's all those different car makes and models. There's a lot of data there. So you took that idea and you said, how can I make it less dense? Like how can I build upon this using the exact techniques that we know are a good idea in Dataviz, like gray everything out, highlight one line at a time, make it interactive so that you're seeing less at a time. And it's like I just love that, that we can all get inspiration from this newspaper article or this website or this, I don't know, this visual that we see online, and you just put your extra little twist on it. So I just love
Yeah,
it. I
totally.
just love it.
No, totally. And I'm just right now looking at the right now I wanted to actually show you live because I think and I may not never meet Jason, but if he ever comes across my work and sees that his name appears, he's gonna be happy and eventually maybe contacts me or not. But I think it's a good karma because really I know some of the works of other really have become friends. And the other good thing about it is that because I have given my work for free, I also at the end been invited to test products and they give me free licenses and say, hey, can you test this and that? And it just sort of put me in the doors in so many places. I'll say this. I think giving back or sharing with the community pays you off of getting invited to places that you potentially may not be invited because who are you? But here sharing your work is like, wow, let's see what he I guess is what I'm trying to say. I may be confusing my words, but what I'm trying to say is like it's a good side effect. You share your work for free, and it's
It is good
just
karma.
good karma, but it just increases your chance of opening doors you would never thought of.
Yep.
Yeah. And here, just in case, I have it here. Wait. Well, okay. I have the blog open in editor mode, but let's see if these let's see if we can see it here real quick because I didn't show this. I mean, it was right here, right here. Is it? Is it? I did saw it. Is the GIF not? Oh, see, you see it here? Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the GIF right there. But I'm not seeing it. Oh, well, okay. Maybe with this size small. So you can see it. See, you can drag it with your mouse over it, and you can drag
That's
the
cool.
axis to say maybe you want these variables to be next to each other. And the
Yeah.
fact that you can freely do that right here, it is just phenomenal. As soon as I saw that, and that was done with Vega or Vega Lite or D3, one of the three. I was like, wow, I have to. Well, I won't be able to do that, but at least I'm able to get myself inspired and say, maybe I don't want to see all the variables. Maybe I just want to see 2 or 3, and then just one will be a strip plot. And this chart, and then we can say, how about if we add a second variable? And the fact that having the possibility to start simple and then grow, I think interactively, I think it offers also many possibilities for people to embrace data visualization. Dynamically. Yeah. Yep. So that I cannot increase the GIF. So sorry for that. I can't see it, but these are also other example of oh, there you go, big screen right there. Yep, that's the one. So I should have put this on the Excel file maybe. I'm gonna see if I still have the file. But then you can see parallel coordinates with Tableau. Tableau is phenomenal. Love Tableau. But then you start combining parallel coordinates with histograms, and now things start to get more overwhelming at first. But then you start seeing, wow, if you now bring color and or maybe I don't know how would you call this graph. I don't know, vertically the stack histogram maybe. Well, I don't know.
I was gonna say violin plot, but I don't think that these vary somehow. They don't have a standard. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, hard to see, hard to appreciate, but I got it from Pinterest and I said to myself, wow, you're combining two complex things. On one end, apparel coordinates, on the other end, histograms, but then stack histograms with no baseline. Yeah, this can go nuts, but eventually you may spot something that maybe with simpler charts it's not so evident. So that's also what I also want to invite everyone is like open yourself to new visualizations, but always know that in the end, lines, bars will do maybe 80 to 90% of the job, but that 10% will be where charts like this lie, and they may be able to see you an insight visually that you wouldn't otherwise spot with the regular charts, Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you, well, this is my blog right here. Homepage is, this is the homepage. Well, actually, let me just log out. I'll log out from this. This is the page right here. You can see a little bit about my about. That's me right there in London in 2024. Kudos to Matthew Bernal who took the photo. On my LinkedIn, you will find me as Carlos Barboza. That's me. You can, of course, send me a request. Now I'm living in Portugal. And really love talking about data visualization and about Excel. I also do a little bit of Power BI, and Power BI. I on my section on my blog, I wanted to show something. I wanted to show people you can build any of these charts with the least amount of DAX, which in this case 3 to 5 measures, and build them. They don't look like Power BI charts, but they are. I mean, that's the other thing, because as you know, Anne, the Power BI charts have their own look and feel, and you can spot when something is an Excel chart and something is a Tableau visual or a workbook, or something is a Python chart. Power BI has their own fame, but you can get to a point. This is funny. Tufty in Power BI getting very crafty also with Power BI. The only thing now in Power BI is just that now we need to learn another set of formulas, which is DAX, and that is also another learning curve. But really, as soon as you understand DAX, then you can hack in a good way Power BI to pull out tricks that don't come in natively, yet implementing DAX into the visuals and hacking the tool in quotes, you can get these sort of effects that may be important visually. Yeah. So I'll end with that.
I didn't realize you also did this with Power BI. So, Carlos, thank you so much for chatting with me. This was great. I
Hey,
feel
no,
like I
thank
got
you
this
for
whole
the
private
opportunity, Anne.
lesson, but also everybody on YouTube can get this lesson from you. It's just amazing.
No, thank you. No, thank you, Anna, for the opportunity. And thank you again for the tips and the feedback. And also attending and being a believer on my masterclass, on my first ever masterclass that I deliver in
Well
London.
worth the trip to London to
Thank you.
take the
Wow, thank
class
you.
in
Thank you.
person with
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, okay. I mean, I look forward to another session. Let me know. I know we may have another topic, but maybe we can talk about Power BI and graphic, because they're known to be poor for so many users, especially the Tableau community, with all due respect. But I think you can get to a certain level that I think is decent compared to the beautiful stuff that comes out from the Tableau community. Yeah.